I'm here in the chapel in Loughcrew in County Meath. It's about a 15-minute drive from where I grew up near Delvin. And in this chapel, in this place, is where St. Oliver Plunkett was born. And in our family, there's been, for many years we used to discuss the fact we were related to St. Oliver Plunkett. His family would have married into our family over the centuries, and I always wondered, back then we didn't have cars, and how did people, meet up? Just the logistics of how did these families meet up and know each other? But when you drive from Delvin to Loughcrew, it's very quick today. And I was just thinking, but well, back in the day, it would have taken an hour on horse, basically, or if you were going to walk it on foot, about 3 hours and something. So very close today. Years ago, you would have to take the time to meet up. But the chapel here it reminds me a lot of the chapel beside Delvin Castle, which was built back in the day. So it's interesting. This one is already cleaned up. It's part of a museum now, so you can come and visit this chapel in Loughcrew. But one thing that always impacted me about St. Oliver Plunkett was his diplomacy, the peacemaker. I think we're venturing into a very fractured society today. There's this sentiment of people want to be pulled one way or the other. We've seen it in England, we saw it in Belfast and so forth. And if there's one thing that you see in the life of our Lord, is the peacemaker. And sometimes that isn't easy. That isn't easy, to be the peacemaker. Christ never said to his disciples, go off and protest at those Romans because they've invaded here and taken the land, and we need to fight back, and we need to get our country back. And and oftentimes, they wanted to make Christ king. They saw in him a leader. Come on, you be the king, and you take back this country, and rise up these people, and create a force, And Christ wasn't that person. Christ wasn't this great military leader, this great populist leader. His kingdom isn't of this world. And to some people that might seem very defeatist, and yet he had the greatest victory over all of these leaders, because only he rose from the dead. None of the Roman emperors rose from the dead. None of these populist leaders rose from the dead. None of them are remembered in that way. Christ rose from the dead, and he left behind him the greatest movement the world has ever known. The most read book in this world is sacred scriptures, the Holy Bible. Even in Islam, you see our Lord mentioned in a different way, and we can debate it all night, but he is the most mentioned leader in all major religions across this world. And his message was a very different message for us. It is disconcerting sometimes to see our Lord at work, how he worked, what he did. And I always think of Oliver Plunkett. And then there's another Archbishop of Armagh before him, Archbishop Richard Cree. Those two men, I always pity that the other one didn't get beatified or canonized yet. Also a great saint, connected to our family. But Archbishop Oliver Plunkett, he had to tread the line in a very difficult time in Ireland. With a lot of forces at play, a lot of people grieved, a lot of people hurt by what was going on. Lands being taken and people being displaced and forces coming in here and so forth, and trying to tread that line was very difficult. And at the end he was betrayed, and he was imprisoned, and he was executed. And sometimes that's a very difficult line to take in life, to follow our Lord, to the cross. But I have always meditated on him and on his mission. And I think as Catholic leaders now in this very, very fractured world, you know, where we see a lot of violence creeping up, we have to be the forces. We have to be other Christs, because Christ would never, never send his disciples go out and protest, go out and throw rocks, go out and throw petrol bombs, go out and do this. He would never do that. And he would never ask his disciples to do that. Blessed are the peacemakers. Know the Spirit of Christ. Know the teachings of Christ. Blessed are the peacemakers. And even when he was being led off to his execution, the sword came out, and he wanted none of that. And even at his crucifixion, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And it's, whenever you meditate on the life of Christ, I don't know if it's just me, you're just there left with this incredible, the life of Christ is an incredible work of divine art. Look at me, follow me, what you could be if you live in me. It's an incredible work of divine art. His whole life, his whole person, and he's still alive, and he's still working in people's lives today. It's simply incredible. And so I think there's a lot of social media leaders out there. There's a lot of people out there inciting hatred and stuff like that. And some of them call themselves Christian, and some of them call themselves Catholic, and so, the greatest thing we can do is to look to the very example of Christ. Christ lived in a time of great upheaval, a lot of mixture of cultures, Roman, Greek, Hebrew, Jewish. He was crucified by a Roman form of torture. He's put to death by a Roman form of torture. And he, up to the very end, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I think, we have to capture that same spirit of Christ and be those leaders of Christ today. Be those leaders, honestly, because it's when you unleash hatred, it's very hard. When you instill hatred in people's lives, in their minds, by your actions, it's very hard to undo it. It's very hard to undo that spirit of destruction that ripples out. And St. Oliver Plunkett, he's a model of another Christ, for me anyway. And I'm privileged to be related to him, privileged to know that anyway. Or so the Nugent historians in my family that have done all the research, and there's a good few of them that tell me, But as I said, there's the other Archbishop, Archbishop Richard Cree. I have a huge admiration for him, and hopefully someday he will be named Saint. I think that's his name, Saint Richard Cree. But at least we forget him in history as well, because he died. He didn't die a martyr. He died in London, but poisoned seemingly. So he wasn't martyred on Tyburn. But anyway, this is Loughcrew in County Meath. It's near a town called Oldcastle. And if you're ever here, you can visit here. You can go to the monastery in Fore. A lot of history here, very deep history. As a 32nd generation Nugent, I say there's a lot of history in this region, but you can visit so many places here. Anyway, Monaster Boyce as well, Fore Abbey, Delvin. You have Mullingar Cathedral, which is a jewel of a cathedral to visit in this region. I mean, you could go on, but anyway, God bless you. Take care. Bye bye. So this is the parish church in Old Castle. It's about 5 minutes drive today from Loughcrew, where St. Oliver Plunkett was born. Thankfully, the Bishop of Meath stopped the worst recoverations in churches in Meath. So you always find altar rails here. In a lot of Meath churches, in the Cathedral of Christ the King, absolutely beautiful. So as you see, everything has been maintained. The altars, the sanctuary lamp, beautiful, absolutely beautiful church. But what I wanted to draw people's attention to, is a lot of people go to see the relics in Drogheda, and rightly so. You have the skull of St. Oliver Plunkett. But I'm just going to show you something here. You also have, and I'll try to zoom in here, you also have the relics here in Old Castle, a bone. Quite a large relic from what I can see. I can zoom in here. That's as far as I can zoom in there with this. But you can see here, this was a relic that was holy relic of St. Oliver Plunkett. Is a gift from Downside Abbey to the parish of Loughcastle on the 1st of November 1975. So if you're ever in Loughcrew, please come to Old Castle and come to this beautiful parish church. It is absolutely stunning. Thanks be to God for faithful bishops of Meath who didn't allow all these churches to be recavated and altar rails thrown out and altars thrown out and God knows what. We seem to have preserved, our side altars, and beautiful church here, absolutely stunning, as many of the churches are in Meath. Some of them did sadly get recavated, but this one has survived the recavations of the last 50 years. I'll just show it to you again here. Let me just, look, as you can see, very beautiful. St. Patrick, St. Bridget, our Blessed Mother, the mosaics you have, that's a mosaic of St. Oliver Plunkett here. Anyway, very beautiful. Beautiful mosaic here with the Latin inscription, Pater si vis transfer calicem istem a me, verum Tamar non meo voluntas sed teo voluntas sed teo fiat. Father, if you wish that this chalice be transferred to me, but not my will be done, but yours. And it's the Sacred Heart. Very beautiful. Very beautiful.